The Judgment. The gleaming glass facade of Elite Motors stood proudly in the heart of downtown, housing some of the world's most exclusive hypercars. On a bright Tuesday morning, two teenage boy selects and Marcus pedaled their bicycles to the entrance. Their combat shorts and plain white t-shirts clung to them in the summer heat. As they parked their bikes and stepped inside, the automatic doors parting with a soft whoosh. The showroom's polished marble floors reflected the pristine vehicles displayed under strategic lighting. The boys moved carefully through the space, their eyes wide with wonder, taking in every curve and contour of automotive perfection. "That's it," Marcus whispered to his older brother, pointing to a midnight blue hypercar that seemed to radiate power even while stationary. "That's the one." The vehicle was breathtaking, a masterpiece of engineering with aggressive lines and a cockpit that looked like it belonged in a fighter jet. The price tag, $900,000. As they moved closer to admire it, a sharp voice cut through their reverie. "Can I help you?" The brothers turned to face a salesman. In his 40s, Blake Thompson, impecably dressed in a tailored navy suit, his cufflinks catching the light as he adjusted them. His polished shoes reflected the showroom lights, and his hair was gelled back with practiced precision. Blake's eyes traveled slowly from their scuffed sneakers to their plain shirts, his expression hardening with each passing second. "I'm sorry," he said, his lips curling into a barely concealed smirk, "but I think you're in the wrong place." Alex blinked, taken aback. "We were just wondering if these vehicles start at $900,000. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable elsewhere," Blake interrupted, enunciating each word as if speaking to someone who didn't understand English. Behind him, several staff members chuckled under their breath. A wealthy couple at a nearby desk paused their conversation to glance over, shaking their heads with patronizing smiles. The brothers' excitement evaporated instantly. Marcus looked down at the floor while Alex gave a polite nod. "Sorry to bother you," he muttered, turning to leave. They walked out slowly, shoulders slumped, the glass doors whispering shut behind them. Just as they were about to mount their bikes, a voice called out, "Wait." They turned to see a woman stepping out from behind a desk near the entrance. She wore a cream blouse and black slacks, her dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. Unlike Blake, her expression was warm and professional. "Do you have a minute?" she asked. The boys exchanged glances, hesitated, then walked their bikes back and stepped inside again. "I'm Emily Torres," she said, meeting them near the car they'd been admiring. "I heard you asking about this model. It's one of the finest in our lineup. Let me walk you through some of its features." The boys brightened as Emily crouched slightly to speak to them at eye level. She detailed the engine specifications, the customization options, and the advanced technology integrated into the interior. She handed them brochures, pointing out details most customers overlooked. They listened intently, asking thoughtful questions about the engineering, the design philosophy, and the legacy behind the brand, questions that revealed a deeper appreciation than most buyers, who focused solely on status. "Would you like to sit in it?" Emily offered. Their eyes widened. "Seriously?" Marcus asked. With her nod, they took turns sitting inside, treating the vehicle with reverence. No wild movements, no selfies, just quiet appreciation. When they stepped out, Emily handed them her business card. "If you ever have more questions, you can call me directly. You're always welcome here." They thanked her with genuine gratitude and rode away, heads held higher than when they'd arrived. As the showroom returned to normal, Blake leaned over to a colleague. "Wasting her time," he muttered, loud enough for Emily to hear. She ignored him, watching the boys disappear down the street. Something about them had resonated with her, perhaps their authentic curiosity or the quiet confidence beneath their awkwardness. Or maybe it was because she recognized what it felt like to be underestimated. The mansion, the sprawling modernist mansion sat perched on a private hillside estate, its glass walls offering panoramic views of the city below. As the afternoon sun cast golden light through floor-to-ceiling windows, Alex and Marcus entered through the massive front doors, their sneakers barely making a sound on the polished marble floors. The brothers moved through the foyer past a sculptural chandelier, their conversation muted as they made their way toward the east wing. At the end of a long hallway stood a set of heavy oak doors, slightly ajar. Inside, their father Jonathan Pierce sat at a grand piano, though he wasn't playing. A crystal tumbler of whiskey rested untouched on its corner. He was a man of commanding presence, and it through intimidation, but through the quiet confidence that came with true power. He looked up as his sons entered. "Back already?" he asked, his voice calm, eyes observant. The boys nodded. "Everything all right?" he asked, noticing their subdued demeanor. Alex opened his mouth to offer the automatic yes, but stopped. "No," he said quietly. "Not really." Jonathan motioned to the leather armchairs near the fireplace. "Sit." For a moment, silence filled the room. Jonathan swirled the whiskey in his glass, set it down without drinking, and turned toward his sons. "Tell me what happened." The story emerged hesitantly at first: excitement of visiting the dealership, their respectful behavior, and then the humiliation of being dismissed based solely on their appearance. "The salesman looked at us like we were dirt," Marcus explained. "He basically told us to leave, said we were in the wrong place. People around us laughed too." He looked down at his hands. "It was embarrassing." Alex quickly added, "There was a woman who worked there, saw us, and came over after the others brushed us off. She was actually nice, showed us the specs, handed us brochures, treated us like we mattered." Jonathan leaned back, the leather creaking softly under his weight. His expression remained composed, revealing neither anger nor surprise. "Did she know who you were?" he asked. Alex shook his head. "No, we didn't mention our last name." "Smart," Jonathan murmured. After a pause, Marcus asked quietly, "Why do people treat you differently based on what you're wearing?" Jonathan's gaze softened slightly. "Because people often confuse appearance with value, and that tells you more about them than it ever does about you." He stood and walked to the window, hands clasped behind his back, watching the sunset. After a long moment, he spoke again. "Thank you for telling me." No fury, no immediate action, just acknowledgement delivered with such composed clarity that it carried more weight than any outburst could have. That evening, dinner was unusually quiet. The family sat close together at one end of the long mahogany table, the chandelier casting warm light over their meal while subtle jazz played through hidden speakers. "You're not mad?" Alex finally asked. "At whom?" Jonathan replied, without looking up from his plate. "The salesman? The people who laughed." He placed his fork down gently. "I don't waste anger on people who show me who they are. I pay attention, and then I act when it matters." Later that night, after his sons had gone to their rooms, Jonathan made a single phone call from his study. "Yes," he said quietly into the receiver. "I need both cars delivered here by 8 a.m. tomorrow. No delays." He paused, listening. "No, not the usual delivery. Have the drivers wait outside the dealership? I want the timing to be precise." Another pause. "It's time they remember, not everyone who looks ordinary is." The reckoning. The next morning, 2 Rolls-Royce boat tails among the most exclusive and expensive vehicles in the world glided to a stop in front of Elite Motors. One obsidian black with silver accents, the other royal blue with rose gold detailing that caught the morning light like liquid metal. Together, worth well over $50 million. The arrival instantly transformed the atmosphere inside the dealership. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. A young couple touring the showroom froze in place. A customer in the lounge spilled his espresso, rushing to the window. Even the cleaning staff paused, eyes widening in disbelief. Phones emerged as staff and customers pressed closer to the massive glass front, whispering in awe, "Is that a boat tail?" 2 of them. Who could possibly? The rear doors opened simultaneously. From the royal blue boat tail, Alex and Marcus stepped out, wearing the same combat shorts and white t-shirts from the day before. Their demeanor was calm, centered, not seeking attention, but impossible to ignore. They walked around to the front of the black boat tail as its rear door opened, and Jonathan Pierce emerged. His dark gray bespoke suit fit immaculately, his posture flawless, his expression unreadable. He adjusted his cufflinks performatively, but with the precision of a man who expected excellence in every detail. Inside the dealership, Blake Thompson's laughter died in his throat as he recognized the boys. His eyes widened in horror as he watched their father approach. Recognition hit him like ice water. Jonathan Pierce, billionaire, industrialist, philanthropist, and one of the most influential figures in global finance. Blake tried to compose himself, wiping sweaty palms on his pants and adjusting his tie as the glass doors parted. The trio stepped inside, and the showroom fell silent. The crowd parted instinctively, like royalty had entered their midst. Jonathan approached the reception desk, his sons following closely behind. "I'd like to speak to the staff member who assisted my sons yesterday," he said, his voice measured but carrying throughout the space. The stunned receptionist blinked rapidly. "Yes, sir. One moment, please." Blake stepped forward quickly, his voice suddenly obsequious. "Sir, that was actually me." Jonathan cut him off with a single look. "No," he said coldly. "You weren't the one who helped them." He turned to the dealership manager, who had emerged from his glass-walled office. "I believe your security cameras recorded yesterday's interactions?" The manager nodded nervously. "Yes, sir. We archive everything." "Then I'd suggest you review the footage before this conversation continues." The manager disappeared into his office without another word. The silence that followed was deafening as staff whispered among themselves, now realizing exactly who these boys were. 5 minutes later, the manager returned, his face pale. "We reviewed the footage, sir. The staff member who helped your sons yesterday was Emily Torres." "And this man?" Jonathan asked, gesturing toward Blake. The manager cleared his throat uncomfortably. He misrepresented the interaction. His behavior was inappropriate and unprofessional. Jonathan turned slowly toward Blake. "You judged my sons the moment they walked in it based on who they were, but what they wore." Blake opened his mouth, but no words came out. "You laughed at them, mocked them. You turned your nose up because you assumed they didn't belong." Jonathan's voice remained controlled, but carried an undeniable authority. "And the irony is, you don't belong here." The manager stepped forward. "Effective immediately, you're terminated." Gasps rippled through the showroom. Blake didn't argue. He simply lowered his head, collected his personal items from his desk, and walked out past the very boys he had dismissed. Jonathan turned back to the manager. "Bring me Emily." Moments later, Emily Torres appeared, confused and cautious. When she recognized the boys, her expression shifted to one of recognition and concern. "Is everything okay?" she asked. Jonathan smiled for the first time, subtle but genuine. "More than okay. You treated my sons with respect. You took the time to listen. You gave them your attention when no one else did." Emily blushed slightly. "They were polite and knowledgeable." "It was a pleasure." Jonathan nodded, then pointed toward the hypercar his sons had admired the day before. "They told me they liked that one. I'd like to purchase it fully loaded, every feature they mentioned." The showroom fell completely silent. That's over $3 million with the customizations they discussed," Emily said, her professional composure momentarily slipping. Jonathan pulled out a pen. "Then make it $3.1 million and ensure the full commission goes to you." He signed the paperwork on the main counter, the same spot where Blake had laughed at his sons the day before. The transaction became more than a purchase. It was a lesson in humility and consequences. As the paperwork was finalized, Jonathan held out the keys to his sons. "Happy early birthday." They accepted the keys with quiet Prodeno cheers, no bragging, just the dignified satisfaction of vindication. Together, the three walked outside to the waiting boat tails, leaving behind a showroom full of people whose perspectives had been permanently altered. The aftermath. The $3 million hypercar purred to life, its engine a symphony of power and precision as it pulled away from the dealership. Jonathan sat behind the wheel, his sons in the passenger seats, holding keys that represented far more than mere transportation. Inside Elite Motors, the silence lingered like the aftermath of a thunderclap. Employees who had laughed the day before now stood speechless, some still holding phones, forgotten in their hands, others with expressions of quiet disbelief. The manager watched from his office, arms folded across his chest, jaw tight with regret. This wasn't just a sale. It was a moment that would ripple through the dealership culture for years to come. Blake's desk stood empty, a visible reminder of consequences. The customer who had smirked as the boys were dismissed now averted his gaze. The junior salesperson, who had laughed along, shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware of his own behavior. In the back office, Emily Torres received a letter signed by the regional director of promotion to senior sales consultant, effective immediately, with her own office and team. She didn't celebrate ostentatiously. She simply walked through the showroom with quiet dignity. Past colleagues who had questioned her judgment just 24 hours earlier. Every step she took conveyed what didn't need to be said aloud. Respect isn't demanded, it's earned. And kindness is never wasted. The showroom felt different now, more thoughtful, more human. Where once there had been arrogance and superficial judgment, there was now reflection. A new salesman sat up straighter at his desk. A whispered conversation ended in contemplative silence. This wasn't just about expensive cars or wealthy clients. It was about how people are treated when no one knows their name about. The danger of confusing modesty for mediocrity and mistaking simplicity for insignificance. It was about judgment and kindness, and how quickly fortunes can change when you forget that appearances rarely tell the whole story.